Michelle Barron, Deputy Editor at Afar. Welcome to View from Afar, a podcast that spotlights the people and ideas shaping the future of travel. And in this special series, I'm coming to you live from the floor of IPW, the annual travel conference organized by the U.S. Travel Association to share the best of America with the rest of the world. In this episode, I'm catching up with Carolyn Beteta, President and CEO of Visit California. She's been with the nonprofit for nearly 3 decades, helping to drive California's multi-billion-dollar tourism industry. In fact, the state consistently has the highest-ranking tourism revenue in the country. Carolyn also serves as an advisor for the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development and has led Visit California's global marketing efforts. As someone who calls California home, I'm interested in Carolyn's experience promoting one of the world's most popular tourism destinations. But we also discuss recent headline-making events in California and how tourism destinations move forward in the face of climate change and other challenges. And we've spoken before, right after the LA wildfires, and I'm a California girl too.
Are you?
Yeah.
Do you live in California?
I do.
Okay.
I live in Northern California, outside of San Francisco, and I'm from Southern California originally.
Oh,
so
nice. Where in Southern California?
I was born and raised in Huntington Beach.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm
from
UCLA.
Fullerton. I went to UCLA.
What?
Yeah. I'm way older than you. Yeah.
Go Bruins.
Uh-huh.
I love it. So on that note, welcome, Carolyn. So Los Angeles is about to host some World Cup games next year and then the Summer Olympics in 2028. So a lot on the horizon. What is Visit California's marketing strategy to ensure it's a successful event for visitors and residents?
There's a couple things that are interesting about the platform of live events.
Yeah.
And that's the category we see these sporting events fall into, is this bigger platform of live events. So on the plus side, they're all pluses, but on the super plus side for us as marketers, we see this as a live, rich environment that really is a place where the brand shines.
Yep.
The brand of California. So we look to it first and foremost as a media platform to get, our content out in an absolutely ideal environment. Interestingly, these events in and of themselves don't make up the $157 billion tourism economy that we have. We have to be always on, bringing leisure visitors in all the time. And sometimes there's a disconnect when these large events come in where, locals leave, people defer trips. And that's a very real phenomenon.
Right.
Frankly, we've spent a lot of time with Paris, the executives at Paris on what they experience. And so we need to be doubling down on using it as a platform and encouraging people that it's okay to come, of course, visit the experiences, the iconic experiences of the games. But it's a great time regionally to see wonderful attractions and experiences. So we actually have to work a little harder about 12 weeks before and 12 weeks after.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that is a common kind of misperception about these events. Everybody just assumes that there's such a great opportunity. But in reality, the people who go to these sporting events are going to go no matter where they are.
Yes.
Because they're enthusiasts. And that's great. But to your point, it can be a deterrent for people who are thinking about going to California, to your point, around those times because they're worried about crowds and they're worried about, pricing and all these issues. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I do think that people think, oh, it's so great. It's wonderful. The World Cup, the Olympics, like what a great opportunity. And it's like, actually, it's an interesting challenge.
It is. It's like this, attraction that everybody talks about. So it makes the destination relevant. But then again, those sporting events and the organizers are really smart business people, and they try to capture their fan base for, most exclusively the events inside the stadiums.
Right.
So even pulling them out, and I mean, no harsh words. I love the brand glow effect that we get from them.
Yeah.
But you have to be super strategic to make it win-win-win.
So you said you talked to, sort of conferred with your colleagues in Paris. What were some of the learnings from Paris? Like, how are you trying to do that? Like, in terms of making it, whether it's ensuring people stay longer or ensuring that people do not defer their visits?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a matter of what those media time slots and what we're doing to activate interest in the market before and after. And then fortunately, we have 13 international offices, so we can help capture the fan base that's traveling and start to introduce them to other experiences, before they even leave.
Right. So helping sort of even with itinerary planning and trying to, let them know what else they can do while they're in the state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where California shines, because
Yeah.
we have this embarrassment of riches up and down the state. So we're confident about that, but it's a different approach to marketing the destination.
Right. So in terms of challenges, when it comes to California right now, a lot of people have on their mind the recent protests that have been making headlines, of course, the wildfires in LA. How do you balance managing the political, economic, and natural crises with the need to promote all the great things there are to see and do in California? And I feel like this is something that you've had to do many times. The pandemic was obviously for everybody a big challenge along those lines. So how do you balance those two things?
Michelle, this is really interesting. There is actually a common thread. There's only one common thread, but there is one common thread between the protests and the fires. And that is, with the fires, the affected areas were less than 2% of all of LA County, even though the world thought all of Los Angeles, even some thought Southern California had burned down. It was less than 2%. Less than 1% of any tourism infrastructure. I'm counting Highway 1 as a corridor for tourism infrastructure, but it was sad, residential neighborhoods, but not really tourism infrastructure like Universal Studios in LA. And that's what we saw with the protests. It was just a couple blocks downtown LA versus all of LA. I was in Santa Monica speaking to the Santa Monica Tourism Group on Thursday. So flew into LA, went to Santa Monica, and you would have never known cobalt blue skies, people playing pickleball, children playing, in their playgrounds.
Right.
I mean, the most amazing experience that day last week, that was the same day the protests were taking place.
So on your end, it's just working to get that message out of what a small area any of these situations are in.
Yes, and thank you for that. I think even our elected officials saw the destruction of the conflation of the media for the fires, and I could see a much more measured response from our elected officials of trying to really put the scope into proper context.
So despite the challenges, California still remains one of the most popular tourism destinations in the world. How are you encouraging travelers to discover more of what California has to offer? We have some obviously trademark destinations and experiences that everybody knows about. Everybody knows about Hollywood. Everyone knows about San Francisco and the Golden Gate. Everybody knows about the theme parks. But I imagine part of your role is to let people know. I mean, it's a massive state.
And we love to spread the love, if you will.
Yeah.
Interestingly, with all of our research, the consumer is anchored by icons like that. But now in this world of digital media or podcasts, people want more, and they want to experience, a destination authentically and like a local. So it's, purposeful that we're constantly anchoring icons with beyond the gateways and hidden gems.
Yeah.
A lot of hidden gem content that we do, just like my time here in Chicago. Just walking to the convention center, my eyes are wide open, like just having a great time. And I'm a visitor here, and I'm inspired by that.
As a Californian, I can say that there are so many places that come up and I'm like, where? What? Like, what is that?
Me
Tell
too.
me more. And so in terms of your visitation, would you say, is it more domestic or international? Like, what's the mix in terms of the demographics of the visitor?
Yeah, it's overwhelmingly domestic.
Oh,
like
interesting.
80+%. Some of that is, we have almost 40 million people in the state, and they're traveling up and down the state.
Right.
And then, of course, domestic and long haul domestic. So it is predominantly domestic, but we value international visitors because they spend more. They travel off peak and shoulder seasons. They travel when our tourism businesses need the business the most. So it's an important niche that they fill in the overall, experience that the businesses provide.
And would you say that the state is on a growth trajectory in terms of visitation? I know it's not easy when you already have such big visitation and the various challenges, obviously coming out of the pandemic and getting back to that. For better or for worse, the sporting events are temporary events, but do you see the state returning to a growth trajectory in terms of visitation?
We have been long term. We just modified our forecast for this year, and we're, notching up 0.5% in spending, but about 0.7% in visitation. So we modified that. We're projecting that we're going to be about 9.5% off on international visitors. So, but that's a trend that's national.
Right. I was going to say, would you attribute that to some of the local events, or that's just what other destinations are seeing as well, the international drop?
Yeah, all of us nationally are seeing, a softening of international, except for there's some bright spots. India's growing. Their middle class is projected to double. Japan's, we've got an uptick there, a little bit from Italy, but Europe's softening. So a couple bright spots with India, and China's coming back on slowly. It's growing about 10% now. Got some extra lift that we need.
And in terms of the international messaging, like how are you marketing California? Acknowledging that there are some changing perceptions about coming to the United States. Like, what is the message that you're trying to get out to international source markets?
Unequivocally, everyone is welcome. We, on a technical level, we have yet to date, despite what the media wants to write, is we have not had one situation where somebody coming into a California airport on a tourist visa for tourism has ever been detained. Not one that we know of.
Right.
I hope people are leaning in, speaking to experts in the travel industry about the real situation, and sometimes not getting caught up in some of these headlines.
Right. No, absolutely. And as we know in travel, we can't plan for the moment because the train keeps moving. So whether or not we have a dip right now, it's, longer term, we have to plan for that longer term growth because it always comes back, thankfully. Is there a fair amount of development in terms of new hotels coming online, museums or happenings coming to California besides the major sporting events we discussed? Is there a pipeline of growth in the state that's sort of preparing for more visitors and expanded visitation?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, literally billions in new infrastructure, hotels, attractions. I mean, Los Angeles alone, LAX, $30 billion improvement, getting ready for, as you mentioned, FIFA, Olympics. And what's neat about that is visitors get a benefit before and after.
Right.
For example, Disneyland is celebrating their 70th anniversary, and they're coming out with an abundance of new experiences and celebrations around that. Orange County in general, the OC Vibe, this incredibly huge, diverse hospitality campus is coming online over the next 10 years. But starting yesterday, frankly, it's going to be so different. I'm from Orange County, so I can't wait to see what it's like decades later. The Gaylord's coming into California, Chula Vista, just south of San Diego, right on the coast. So not only a major resort, but right on the coast. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then just kind of fun, a new tent resort in Sonoma, the River Electric. It's a new 40 tent resort, which will be
fun.
great right on the river.
Yeah. And in terms of with the wildfires, which is, a regular problem in California, signifying severe impact of climate change, what are the ways in which California's tourism industry can and should grow more sustainably, making sure that we grow, but grow sustainably and responsibly?
Yeah, that's something that's really important to us. And it really started coming out of the pandemic when we had what we call a staircase of how we used to have to travel, all of us, nationally, internationally, in terms of the safety effect. And we developed the responsible travel code back then, dealing with the dynamic environment. 4 years later, we were fortunate enough to get a post-pandemic grant through the EDA to develop a statewide stewardship plan and work with all the destinations that are already developing their stewardship plan. So that's very comprehensive and really is a guide for the industry of best practices. The industry has to be sustainable. There has to be stewardship practices. It has to be renewable, because if there isn't, there is no industry.
Absolutely.
So we are known being green and sustainable as part of California's DNA, and that extends to the hospitality industry as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's great to see. So in terms of the future of California, where do we go from here? Where would you like to see the state's travel and tourism industry 10 years from now? Other than just bigger.
Yeah. I think better, constant state of improvement. What I love is this embarrassment of riches, this diversity of product that's embedded in authenticity. And that comes with this incredibly entrepreneurial people that believe in this land of dreams. It's been incredible. So boutique hotels, new attractions and experiences, and anything you can get in the world, you can experience right here. And even our world-class road trips are amazing. And those are the things that keep the vitality and the thread of the whole state together. So we just need to continue to evolve with consumer expectations. And the good news is consumers, I feel, are more sustainably minded and understand the connection between their experience and the benefit of the community. And we just want to keep reminding them.
Yeah.
And on a global level, be educating prospective visitors as far as best in class.
Yeah.
You guys are best in class. And we love having your voice out there that we can help chime in. And our success together is tied into our education of consumers around the world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Carolyn. This has been a treat.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of View from Afar. In the show notes, you'll find links to the topics we discussed, Visit California's website and social handles, and links to our recent California coverage. And be sure to follow along this week to hear more interviews with industry experts. You can find more Views from Afar on afar.com, and be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We're at Afar Media. If you enjoyed today's conversation, I hope you'll come back for more great interviews. Subscribing always makes that easy. And be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast platforms. This has been View from Afar, a production of Afar Media. The podcast is produced by Aislinn Green and Nikki Golteland, with assistance from Michelle Barron and Billy Cohen. Music composition from Epidemic Sound. This podcast is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to their other fine shows like Culture Kids and the Explorers Podcast.